Measure twice, cut once, except I measured 3 times and still cut it wrong. Sound familiar? There's a reason this keeps happening, and it's probably not what you think. Here's what causes job site inaccuracies and how to eliminate them forever. All right, so you're on the job site. It's a multi-person crew. Some of these inaccuracies won't be as common if you just work by yourself, but if you're shouting out measurements, calling out measurements, the very first thing that I suggest that you do is that the whole crew use the exact same tape measure. Okay, this is gonna eliminate subtle or small inaccuracies on the job site. I've had this problem in the past. We had to figure out how to rectify it, and it was simple. Throw away everything that everybody has on the job site except for one tape. My go-to tape, this is an older one. This is a Fat Max 25 footer. It doesn't quite have the spring back it used to. I haven't let her go yet because you can still read it, but it is wearing out on the back side, okay? So this has been retired to the shop. But this is an excellent tape that we use commonly on our job site. But let me show you what a cheap tape measure. Now I love the color of this tape, but I don't like what it does as far as measurements, okay? I know this Fat Max is accurate. It's my go-to. I can rely on it daily. We're just gonna go out to 6 inches right here. This is not a lot of distance. Now the bonus of this cheap tape, it does metric and imperial. Don't worry about metric. If I measure this tape out to 6 inches, I'm tugging against a piece of wood, 4x6 material. My hook is tight to, both of these hooks are tight to the edge of this board. I'm running a 1/16 out in 6 inches, which is terrible. This tape, you're gonna cut everything too long, which if you got a guy on the job site that's cutting everything too short, maybe you give him this tape and make him identify with this one. But that's not really how you fix that. What you do is you take this tape, and it's still a 1/16 out at 1 foot, and at 1'6", we're still a 1/16 out. So it's not getting any better, it's staying the same, but it's still a 1/16 out. The first thing I would do, and I would only use one type of tape measure. That is gonna be one resolve. We fixed resolve once by doing that alone, okay, on our job site. Another problem that's very common, this is the hook of your tape. The hook can get bent. If you drop the tape measure and it hits on the hook, it can curl. And this happens more commonly than you realize, especially on hard surfaces. So if this hook gets curled, you can easily be off an 1/8 inch, even more if you don't catch it. So we had a guy that had a curled hook, and mine was flat, and I was calling out these measurements, and he was using a curled tape measure, and we're cutting $7 a lineal foot decking. And I'm calling out 10 foot 5.5, and he's doing it, and he's getting me a 10 foot 5 3/8 just because the end of his tape measure was bent. So for those that are very concerned about that, check these daily. Check your team and say, hey, does anybody have a bent end? It's very easy to fix. All you gotta do is bring it down onto something straight like this, take your hammer and just bang on it to get it to flatten out. You're gonna be a lot closer and more accurate if you flatten these out and keep them synchronized or keep them calibrated, we'll say. That way, you're gonna make sure that the hooks aren't impeding your measurements, which is extremely important. So that's another way to eliminate job site inaccuracies. All right. Here's another one. I'm the call out guy. I'm the guy taking the measurements, and I'm calling down to somebody at the chop saw, and they're making all my cuts for me. And I call out 86 and 9/16, and I go back to work. And then somebody calls back at me a minute later and says, hey, what was that measurement again? That burns me more than anything else. It still happens to this day with my team. You gotta write down all your measurements. If you're the call out guy and you're calling it down, make sure whoever's receiving those measurements is writing them down. We have a really easy way to fix this. Right on the outside of our tape measures, we buy these sticky pads. We get them from Fast Cap. It is quite a cool invention. It's just a sticky pad for your tape that works in the outdoor elements. Another reason why I like the Fat Max, it's nice and flat right here. A lot of these vanity tape measure companies will put a bubble, or even well, let's look at this one. Even this DeWalt Atomic. This is a DeWalt tape, right? But you can see it's got a bubble to the middle. The sticky pad doesn't want to stick to this tape measure as well as this tape. So I usually so I've fixed that by just taking my belt sounder out and then just running this thing and just flatten it out, and then the sticky pad will stick right on it. Look, here's still an old measurement from, I don't know, a year ago probably, 179. Depending on the type of lead you use, these will either stay really well or maybe not. Depending on how small you write and how accurate you write, I can get 15 measurements on this if I need to, like 10 foot, 9 foot, 8 foot, 7 foot, 6, 5, 4, 7 measurements right there. 142 and 5/8, 163 and a half, whatever the measurements are. You just write them all down here, and then it's easy to transfer those measurements down to the chop saw. Sometimes I've done this, I've taken notes, and I've just tossed my tape measure down to the cut man, and he'll just go right off my tape. But using a system, I don't care if it's cardboard and Sharpies, if you have a notepad maybe, maybe those Write in the Rain kind, that are smaller. I've had guys use those before and that worked out great. Everybody has their way. Doesn't really matter as long as the team is writing down the measurements. If they don't write it down, you're gonna be repeating yourself and you're gonna get aggravated. And not only does it waste time, but it also just aggravates and frustrates the guy that's up on the deck with no deck boards up there, walking around on joists. It's kind of dangerous, okay? Have common courtesy and write down your measurements, guys, okay? If you need super duper accurate measurements, sometimes this hook gets in the way. You can always burn an inch. Burn an inch. What that means is you just start from the 1 inch mark, or any mark for that matter, but usually we call it burn an inch. Like if I want to get a really accurate measurement on this board, and let's say it's going to be 3.5 inches, but I want it to be dead accurate, I'll burn an inch, and then I'll go to 4.5 because I got to burn an inch. So if I want a 3.5 inch measurement, I got to measure 4.5, and then I got my 3.5 inch measurement. Now this DeWalt atomic tape is kind of cool because if you have somebody that's newer on the team and they can't remember eighths and quarters and halves and all that, it's printed on one side of the tape. It's not printed on the back. This is kind of a cheap tape. It doesn't have any protective coating right here, but it's not a bad instructional tape measure for those that are learning. Now, while I got you, my final tip is lingo, job site lingo. How do you help people get the right measurement when there's 3/16, 5/16, 7/16, 9/16, 11/16, 13/16? That's probably the worst one. 11/16 and 13/16 or 15/16, okay? A lot of people no comprendo that. We do it different. We have a method, and this is a universal on our job site. So we break the inch down into 8 sectors by the 1/8 inch. Then we use the plus or minus sign to subtract or add a 1/16 to those measurements. So I don't even care if my team knows what these little tiny measurements are, the ones in between the 1/8 and 1/4 and 3/8 and 1/2. I don't care if you know what those are because they're a plus or a minus off the other measurement. So I'm always calling out either one of these 7 measurements with a plus or a minus if I need to get in between those 2 measurements, okay? So if I say 3 1/4 plus, that's right there. But if I say 3 3/8 minus, it's at the same location. So you could make it 2 different ways depending if you want to do plus or minus, okay? If I go 4 inch minus, that's actually right here, but it's the same measurement as 3 7/8 plus. But it shouldn't matter. It's gonna help you stay more accurate on the spectrum right here if you just use a plus or a minus. Now some other people, they use it differently. They may say strong or weak. I've even heard some vulgar terms used for the size of the tape and the length of the measurement, but we're not gonna get into that, right? Because I'm sure you can use your imagination, and I'm sure some of you will. Don't write it down because it will get deleted because we're in construction. We're just trying to help. We're just trying to help somebody out there. We get a lot of new people out there, some doctors and lawyers, attorneys and dentists. They wanna build decks too, but they may not understand the lingo of how you read a tape. So now you know. And if everybody on the team has the same lingo, then we can all be more accurate in our measurements. So I hope that helps some of you out there. If you like this video, the first thing you need to do is click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon if you want to be notified when we're putting out new content. Also, check out our new podcast. There's a link below in the description. And if you want a Dr. Decks t-shirt, hey man, the link's down there as well. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and have a great day.